get some analysis. Troy Bramston is with me, as he is regularly on this program. He's senior writer and columnist at The Australian. John Howard's still sharp as a tack, isn't he? He's 82, but probably still the sharpest political communicator in the country.
Absolutely, Kieran, and it's incredible that he's still on the campaign trail, going from state to state, and he'll be a big asset, I think, for Scott Morrison and his government. And I can't actually suggest or say to you that there are any of the Labor prime ministers or former leaders who are as big of an asset, because I think they all have positives and negatives, but I guess the negatives from the John Howard prime ministership seem to have faded over time, and he's faded as the statesman that I think he deserves to be.
Yeah, indeed. And let's get straight to the point. How big a mess was that yesterday from Anthony Albanese, and what's the longer-term impact for the 6-week campaign in your view?
I think it'd be mistaken, Kieran, to say that Labor can't win the election from here, or that it's all downhill with no recovery. But make no mistake, this was a big gaffe, a big mistake by Anthony Albanese. I actually thought his press conference on Sunday, and indeed I was watching the Sky News coverage with you and Andrew and others, I thought he was a little bit lacklustre there too. I didn't think he was as sharp in his messaging as the Prime Minister was in the opening moments of the campaign. Then, of course, he had that stumble over the official cash rate and the unemployment rate yesterday on what was essentially day one. That has given the government a little bit of a boost, a little bit more confidence. The polls are trending back towards the government. And this has led a number of senior Labor figures to question how well prepared Anthony Albanese is for what is going to be a gruelling election campaign.
Yeah, I've heard a similar sentiment, Troy, from long-serving, experienced Labor people who are just a bit, if not rattled by it, just a bit, doubtful as to whether the work's been done.
Yeah, look, they are nervous. I wouldn't say they're panicked, but they're nervous and they're a little bit worried. And indeed, I've spoken to Labor campaigners and even a number of Anthony Albanese's front bench colleagues in the last day or two. The big problem for Anthony Albanese is, he is seen as lagging the Prime Minister in the polls on who's best to handle national security and economic policy, and indeed the pandemic. But economic policy is always the number one issue in election campaigns. So this gaffe has understandably been seized upon by the government. It feeds into their narrative, which they've already established, that he's not well equipped to manage the economy, that he's risky, that he's not across the details. And for this to happen on day one of the campaign is very, very damaging, I think, to the Labor campaign. It's not fatal, but it has made a lot of people question whether he's match fit for a campaign, whether he's across the detail, whether the Labor campaign team have briefed him well enough, and whether or not he can withstand scrutiny. And the other point to make, Kieran, is, of course, he's now under pressure. I mean, there have been more questions today on the campaign trail. This issue of yesterday's gaffe is dogging him for a second day. So he's under pressure, and when candidates are under pressure, they can potentially make even more mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. He is rattled personally. You could see that, and if he's thrown off kilter permanently for this campaign, that's a disaster for Labor. If he could get it back on track, I totally agree with you that 6 weeks is a long time. But while it would have been worse in the last week, people are saying, it's the first week and that sort of thing. I get that, but the problem was, and I think that what adds to this is the fact that it was the first day. When it's the very first full day of campaigning, it might not be as bad as the last week, but it's not great, is it? Because as you say, it just fits in exactly with the narrative that the coalition is trying to build, and it gives Morrison, the PM, a spring in his step.
Yeah, and Kieran, campaigners on both sides say that the opening stages of a campaign are also critical. I mean, it's not just the final week. And, of course, we may have 40 to 50% of people voting before Election Day, and the voting will start in about a week or so, or a week or 10 days. So I think voters will be tuned in to these opening days of the campaign. The government has already, or the Liberal Party and National Party, I should say, have already made the most of this on social media. The attack ads have already started. I mean, it's manna from heaven for coalition campaigners. The good thing for Anthony Albanese, though, if there's anything good out of it, is that it did happen in the opening stages of the campaign. And he's also got Easter coming up, Good Friday coming up this week, and then a bit of a break. So that'll be an opportunity for a little bit of a reset, where I think a lot of voters will be naturally focused on holidays and family gatherings and getting together with friends. So he's got a bit of an opportunity to reset, but it's not a good start. It's far from ideal. I think he is looking a little bit rattled, and the government does have a boost to their campaign, but it's still early days, Kieran.
It is. One thing that I would suggest that Labor would be contemplating now, and if not should be, is getting their own attack ads out quick smart to remind people some of the PM's own difficulties on price of petrol and so on. I know that this issue was not great to start this campaign, but they've got some fodder to work with, and if they're nimble enough, they should have some returns of serve out there quick smart.
Kieran, this government should be gone for all money. It's been well behind in the polls. I think voters are cranky with the Prime Minister. They're sceptical about the government's claims on its performance across the board. It is a government that looks like the wheels have been falling off. It's been disunited. There have been policy backflips. There have been policy blunders. There's been some chaos in Parliament. Within the party rooms, there's been open attacks on the Prime Minister from his own side. Yet momentum now in the first week of the campaign seems to be running Labor's way, even though Labor is still in front and the government is behind. But this raises another question, Kieran. Talking to other Labor campaigners, they're unsure about Labor's ability on social media to cut back fast with a quick attack, a slashing attack. And they've been outgunned, I think, in terms of the big advertising spend and also the nature of the advertising. I think that the Scott Morrison ad at the opening start of the campaign was much, much more slicker, much, much more effective than the campaign with the campaign ad with Anthony Albanese on the opening day. So, look, there's a few things where you can say the Labor campaign needs to finally tune, sharpen up its attacks, improve its advertising, better brief the leader, and make sure that they start to hit some runs on policy and get their own attacks in on the government.
Yeah, the two words, sharpen up, crucial across the board from the top down. The other opportunity, you spoke about Easter being a chance for a reset. A really important couple of set-piece events are the debates, including the Sky News People's Forum. I haven't got it locked in yet, but when you're in front of 100 undecided voters, your opponent's standing there, it's also a great test of one's ability to be nimble, to address people directly, the authenticity question. It's the best platform, I think, in terms of trying to get some momentum at that stage of the campaign when it happens, and a chance for a reset, I guess, for Anthony Albanese.
Yeah, look, the debates will be critical. And, I've been critical for a number of campaign cycles now, Kieran, that we don't have an independent debate commission established, where at the start of the election campaign, a series of debates are laid out for voters to know exactly in different formats when they're going to be held between the two leaders, whether it's a people's forum, a one-on-one debate, or a panel of journalists. We need to sharpen up how we run election campaigns in this country. And Scott Morrison and Bill Shorten agreed to establish a debate commission during the last election campaign and have a schedule ready at the start of the campaign. Well, that hasn't happened. Nevertheless, we will see some debates. These are now high risk for Anthony Albanese because Scott Morrison's coming from behind. He's got little to lose. He seems to be better prepared, better briefed. Another mistake by Anthony Albanese, and a debate is where it could happen, could indeed be fatal. So they better start their debate preparation, I think, on the Labor side if they haven't already. But, we really should have debates locked in and a schedule agreed by now.
Yeah. Hopefully we've got one locked in soon with our People's Forum. Troy, we'll keep you posted as always. Thank you, our colleague, senior writer and columnist at The Australian, Troy Bramston. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kieran.